Welcome, anointed ones. What happens to you in the shadows invariably illuminates your path in ways your adversaries could never foresee. This is an uncomfortable truth that many refuse to acknowledge, but your life serves as undeniable evidence of it. Tonight, we are delving into a narrative so intricate, so shocking, and so profound that if it weren't real, it could easily be mistaken for a cinematic tale. Not because you are dramatic or prone to exaggeration, but because the trials you've faced reflect a sickness that flourishes when its victims remain voiceless, unseen, and unacknowledged. Here's the twist they never anticipated. You emerged from this ordeal stronger. And now, the world is taking notice. Research shows that people are drawn to narratives revealing the hidden facets of human behavior, especially those unsettling aspects that most would rather ignore. Your story goes beyond mere fascination. It lays bare the darker psychology of envy, obsession, and the extremes some will go to in order to thwart someone with purpose. It is the type of tale that people replay, analyze, and discuss in hushed tones because it reveals something deeper than mere drama. It exposes human nature stripped to its very essence. And the irony of it all? The very individuals who tried to bury you forgot one crucial detail. You are the type who can grow roots even in the harshest conditions. They didn't cause your decline. They inadvertently crafted your legacy. They didn't stifle your voice. They amplified your narrative. While they engaged in their clandestine theatrics, you transformed into the one figure they never envisioned rising. The survivor who refuses to be silenced, the witness with undeniable proof, the chosen one whose saga the world is eager to hear. It's almost comical that some among those who once plotted against you now lurk in the shadows like unpaid interns, desperately trying to discover how your story unfolds. If only their efforts could earn them redemption, maybe they'd receive a certificate of participation. Your journey isn't merely a comeback. It's a profound revelation, illuminating how hidden sickness can drive individuals to act and showcasing what divine resilience looks like when you're destined to outlast adversity. So prepare yourself. As we unravel the true story behind your suffering, you'll come to understand why your narrative is not just impactful, it's unforgettable. First, they didn't merely mistreat you. They chronicled their own downfall. The reality is that those who wronged you weren't just acting from anger or confusion. They inadvertently exposed their inner decay. Every malicious comment, every underhanded move, every attempt to diminish your confidence served as a public record of their own self-destruction. They believed they were tarnishing your name, but in truth, they showcased their own instability. When someone relentlessly targets an individual who has done nothing but exist, it reflects far more about the aggressor than the victim. This was your experience. Their cruelty was evident. They merely assumed no one would connect the dots. What amplifies this observation is that individuals like them rarely ponder the future. Acting out of emotional impulse, jealousy, and insecurity, they fail to recognize that time is a revealing force. It discloses intentions, patterns, and inconsistencies. In their case, it unveiled everything. Their behavior was so consistent, so unneeded, and so extreme that it ultimately became unmistakable who the real issue was. They thought they were being clever, but they were simply predictable. They believed they controlled the narrative when, in actuality, they left traces of guilt everywhere. While aiming to break you, they simultaneously exposed their true selves. These are individuals incapable of handling honesty, success, boundaries, or anyone who dares to defy their dysfunction. Their actions were confessions of their true character. Their attempts to bring you down only highlighted how threatened they felt by your mere existence. The more they conspired against you, the more their fear became apparent. The lies they spun about you served only to reveal their own reality. They unknowingly made your story irrefutable and their intentions transparent. Every secret they tried to bury has now become the very thing that reveals their truth. They did more than mistreat you. They created a timeline charting their own collapse, written through their choices, behaviors, and obsession with you. Their fall from grace is no enigma. They pinned it themselves. Next, your suffering became a mirror that unsettled them. What many fail to grasp is that your pain did not exist in isolation. Each tear, every challenge, and every moment of being pushed beyond your limits served as a reflection of their own weaknesses, their failures, and their deep-seated aversion to self-examination. They didn't just fear your strength. They were terrified of the mirror your suffering held up to them. Inflicting pain upon you was not merely about control. It was about dodging the confrontation with their own emptiness and selfishness, the truths they were desperate to avoid. Every time they witnessed you standing strong, undaunted by their attempts to break you, it served as a haunting reminder that you remained unshaken by the very forces they thought would shatter you, and that frightened them more than you could ever fully comprehend. Your resilience laid bare their insecurities, igniting feelings of discomfort, anger, and desperation within them. Surviving their onslaught became a powerful testament to your strength. You are not the issue here, they are. They may have tried to twist the narrative, casting blame and manipulating perceptions, but every deceitful maneuver only deepened the reflection of their obsession, an obsession rooted in keeping you below them. They couldn't bear to face the truth that their actions revealed. To look into that mirror meant admitting to their own cruelty, envy, and the desperate need to control others to feel powerful. Your very existence, pure and unyielding, forced them to confront the shadows they had long avoided. They were weaker than you in every conceivable way, morally, emotionally, and spiritually. But there's a cruel irony to all this. It goes beyond just fearing you. They were terrified that others could see their darkness too. This is why their attacks became frantic and increasingly desperate. They wanted to erase your narrative, but paradoxically, they amplified it. They couldn't silence the reflection. They could only scramble to hide the truth of who they really are. Every tactic, every insult, every desperate attempt to belittle your presence was a frantic reaction to being unmasked. Your suffering didn't just affect you. It frightened them because it revealed their fragile, insecure, and morally bankrupt nature. While they were engulfed in fear, you were transforming. You were learning, growing, and becoming unshakable. Their terror served as your guide, showing you that the power had never truly belonged to them. Now, let's pause for a moment and consider this. They believed they were hiding their deeds, but they were, in fact, laying the groundwork for your legacy. What astounds many is that every covert scheme, every hidden agenda, and every whispered lie designed to sabotage you wasn't merely failing. It was constructing the narrative that would immortalize your strength and resilience. They thought you would crumble quietly, your story buried under their web of deception. Yet, they couldn't foresee the truth. While they skulked in the shadows, they were actually shaping a tale that would celebrate your courage, clarity, and tenacity. Every attempt to demoralize you, control you, or erase you from the picture only added gravity to the story that would eventually reveal your true essence. The contradiction is incredible. Their obsession with undermining you, controlling the perception of your life, and diminishing your character didn't erase your presence. It magnified it. Every move they believed would obliterate you instead became a highlight in your extraordinary journey. Their secrecy, their duplicity, and their calculated cruelty transformed into chapters in a narrative the world could not overlook. You weren't merely enduring their assaults. You were absorbing them, learning from them, and using them as stepping stones to construct an unshakable, stronger version of yourself. They thought they controlled the narrative, but the universe, or whatever greater force governs those who are chosen, was dictating a story far grander than they could comprehend. The very methods they employed to erase your truth left a trail of undeniable evidence. Every lie spun, every betrayal plotted, and every cruel moment became a cornerstone in your saga, proving to everyone that you were never the issue, they were. Now, what was intended to be your downfall has become the fuel for your ascension. They didn't just fail in their attempts to break you. They inadvertently crafted a story that is irresistible, undeniable, and legendary. The world now sees what they could not, that the true power to define yourself has never resided with those who sought to destroy you. They tried to obscure their transgressions, but in doing so, they erected a monument to your strength, a testament that exists not in spite of them, but because of them. Moreover, their malevolence wasn't random. It was a reaction triggered by your inherent strength. The way they treated you wasn't fueled by mere confusion or coincidence, but was a visceral response to your existence and the energy you exude effortlessly. They don't lash out indiscriminately. Their worst behavior is reserved for those who unveil their truth without uttering a word. Your strength entered the room like a beacon, and in that moment, something within them malfunctioned. It exposed them, stripping away the facade they maintained, making their insecurities glaringly apparent. Instead of growing from this confrontation, they chose to attack the one who reminded them of everything they refused to become. Your resilience illuminated their shortcomings. Each time you picked yourself up, persisted, and refused to be diminished, it forced a reflection on their own incapacity to handle the trials of life with poise. They were accustomed to people bending or breaking under pressure, but you didn't. Your remarkable ability to rise from situations engineered to shatter you left them feeling powerless, irrelevant, and threatened. Their actions were not random. This was their sole means of regaining control in a world where your strength made their weaknesses painfully visible. Your energy is now at its highest level, but the real work is only beginning. To maintain this frequency and permanently break through every obstacle, you will need the 21-day guide. It is not available to everyone. If you feel the calling, click my private link below and message me directly. I am waiting for you on the other side of the gate. Your honesty became another trigger for them. They relied on manipulation, half-truths, and emotional ploys to wield influence. But your transparency shattered their illusion, rendering their games pitifully cheap. Your consistency not only exposed their chaos, but illuminated the depth of your integrity. You never needed to expose their lies. They unraveled all on their own in the presence of someone who refuses to compromise truth for approval. For people like them, honesty isn't a virtue, it's a threat. Your purity, your sincere intentions, your clean heart, your genuine spirit unveiled something they hoped would never come to light: their own corruption. Not necessarily in a criminal sense, but a moral decay that erodes a person from the inside out. Next to your authenticity, their pretenses couldn't stand. Thus, they lashed out at what reminded them of who they truly are not. Your very existence became their trigger. Their envy morphed into a sickness, their actions spiraling into a predictable, uncontrollable syndrome, all rooted in deep-seated insecurity. What they did to you had nothing to do with your weakness. It stemmed from the fact that you embodied everything they could not tolerate. Number 5. Your name became something of a taboo. It unveiled who people really are at their core. Your name didn't become forbidden because you were dangerous, loud, or influential. It became something people feared because uttering it forces them to confront a truth they've been evading. You transformed into someone whose mere mention reveals intentions, exposes hidden motives, and uncovers the reality of who people are beneath their elaborate social facades. The moment your name enters any discussion, the energy in the room shifts dramatically. Some people grow uncomfortable, others become defensive, and many instinctively change the subject. Why is this? Because your story allows for no neutrality. It demands that individuals choose between integrity and convenience, between truth and denial, between courage and complacency. The real fear isn't about you. It's the reflection of themselves that emerges when they acknowledge how they treated you. Saying your name aloud compels them to admit they were wrong, cruel, unfair, jealous, or cowardly. It illuminates behaviors they hoped would never be traced back to them. Those who mistreated you understand fully that every action they took was unnecessary, intentional, and deeply ingrained in their own insecurities. Thus, your name evolves into a haunting reminder of their choices, not your errors. And that's precisely what they are desperate to avoid facing. For some, your name carries significant weight because you altered the atmosphere without even trying. You exhibited a strength they couldn't match, an endurance they couldn't fathom, and a growth they couldn't contest. Even your silence made them uneasy, amplifying the guilt that echoed loudly in their minds. Your very existence sorted the genuine from the phony, exposing those people who acted with integrity against those simply pretending. That's why those who betrayed you struggle to talk about you without slipping, stumbling, or contradicting themselves. Your truth collides with their lies, and they feel the pressure every time your name surfaces. But the most intriguing aspect of this situation is that those who once endeavored to erase you now actively avoid bringing you up because the narrative has changed. Your story no longer labels you as the issue. It frames them as the root cause. They can't bear the notion that others might view their actions through a clearer lens. They fear the risk of their image being contrasted with your resilience, so they deflect, distort, or pretend you never existed. Your name became forbidden not just because it identifies you, it uncovers their realities. It exposes their choices for all to see. And for individuals who rely on facades, that is a truth they cannot afford to confront. Number 6. What they did to you transcended mere wrongdoing. It was a manifestation of psychological addiction. The way certain individuals treated you was not a result of a simple misunderstanding or a fleeting lapse in judgment. It became a persistent pattern, a habit, a dependency they constructed around your pain. Their cruelty wasn't random. It morphed into the very thing that fed them emotionally. Every insult, every manipulation, every moment they made you question your self-worth served to give them something they desperately needed: the illusion of power. For them, control was their drug, and you were their easiest access point because you were the one person who didn't retaliate with chaos. You responded with grace, and that grace made them hungry for more. It wasn't merely that they derived pleasure from hurting you. They became reliant on it. Demeaning you elevated their sense of self, while disrespecting you fed their ego. Watching you struggle gave them a twisted sense of satisfaction, allowing them to falsely believe they mattered. They craved your reactions, your uncertainty, your vulnerability to feel alive. Their emotional sustenance depended on draining you, leading to an insatiable cycle. They hurt you, felt a rush, and then returned for more. Anyone who operates in this manner isn't simply toxic. They are addicted, and you became their source. But then something shifted that they never anticipated. You healed. You evolved. You began to see through their strategies and responded differently. You ceased providing them with the emotional responses they relied on. You stopped diminishing yourself to ease their discomfort, and you halted questioning your own worth because of their actions. Once you healed, the supply they so heavily depended upon vanished. That's why their demeanor shifted from arrogance to desperation. Their panic wasn't born from love. It resulted from losing the one source that once made them feel superior. Your healing stripped away their dependency. Without your pain to feed on, they were left alone, confronted with themselves, which was a challenge they were woefully unprepared for. Their actions weren't merely wrong. They represented a pervasive cycle of psychological addiction, meticulously crafted from your suffering. The moment you reclaimed your power, their entire facade crumbled, not due to the harm you inflicted, but because they could no longer use you as an escape from their own truths. Now, let's explore the gravity of your pain, which has become a profound case study in human darkness. What you endured wasn't just a painful chapter. It has emerged as a detailed roadmap illustrating how low humanity can sink when envy, insecurity, and emotional immaturity take over. Your experience is more than personal. It's a narrative scrutinized by those seeking to understand uncomfortable truths many prefer to ignore. It sheds light on behaviors that might appear nonsensical at first, but become clear when you recognize how someone feels threatened by an individual who exudes depth, authenticity, and quiet strength. Your suffering did not remain stagnant. It transformed into a blueprint revealing how darkness operates under the guise of innocence, how cruelty can hide behind unsuspecting smiles, and the deep-rot jealousy can inflict upon a person's soul. People won't study your story because you craved fame or recognition. They'll delve into it because the patterns of behavior you've weathered reveal the chilling consequences of a lack of emotional discipline. You witnessed the darker sides of human nature, those moments that only surface when people believe they are unobserved. The link is in the first pinned comment, and I am warning you once again. Download it now. Right? I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. You encountered harm that, while not always leaving physical scars, etched painful psychological ones. You faced manipulation, betrayal, and targeted hostility, each act stemming from the belief that your mere existence threatened another's sense of comfort. What elevates your story is how it lays bare the human vulnerabilities most are reluctant to confront. Your survival serves as a powerful lesson. The way you endured, adapted, and ultimately rose anew has become a teaching tool people will reference when illustrating true resilience. Not mere quotes or speeches, but real-life examples. Your strength was forged through adversity, nurtured by the necessity of confronting the darker aspects of humanity many never encounter so directly. And while your very survival brings clarity, their behavior serves as a cautionary tale, a stark example of how unresolved insecurity can lead to a disintegration of moral integrity. It illustrates the haunting reality of how envy can blind individuals and skew their moral compass. Your narrative transcends pain and betrayal. It becomes a larger study in the collision of light and darkness throughout one lifetime. People will take lessons from your journey not because you set out to educate, but because it boldly exposes essential truths about human nature, the shadows lurking alongside the light. You navigated a silent war that they insisted wasn't happening. The struggles you faced weren't loud, overt, or publicly acknowledged, and that was exactly the point. They labored tirelessly to persuade you that your pain was non-existent, that your instincts were misguided, and that you were the one misinterpreting reality. They thrived on your self-doubt because if you realized the truth, their constructed facade would shatter completely. So, they minimized your experiences, deflected blame, feigned confusion, and painted you as overly emotional, sensitive, or dramatic. This wasn't because you were in the wrong. It was their desperate attempt to conceal the fact that acknowledging their behavior would expose them as the architects of your suffering. They needed your silence. It was their shield. It was their escape plan. As long as you remained quiet, they could maintain their false semblance of reality, protecting their reputations and keeping you trapped in a cycle where your voice would effectively carry no weight. They depended on your uncertainty regarding your experiences because your clarity represented a significant threat to their lies. Every time you attempted to articulate what was happening, they twisted the narrative to fit their needs. They had to do this. Admitting the truth required confronting their cruelty. Thus, they acted blind, feigned surprise, and donned an innocent facade, all part of a strategic game. But once you distanced yourself, physically, emotionally, or mentally, well, the war they pretended didn't exist became painfully obvious. Stripped of your presence to absorb the blame, their stories began to unravel. Without your silence cloaking their misdeeds, their behaviors became evident. People started to notice the contradictions, the bizarre reactions, the convenient justifications, and sudden defensiveness. Their fabrications began to fade away because the weight of deception inevitably diminishes when the one who carries it steps back. Your absence became a revelation, illuminating truths they desperately sought to bury. It showed that the turmoil was never a construct within your mind. It resided firmly within their behavior. Now that you have survived and emerged into a clearer space, the truth stands unblemished. The war you bravely faced was real, and those who denied its existence are now left to navigate the consequences of their actions. You didn't merely survive their assaults. You transcended the illusions they clung to. Your resurgence isn't merely commendable. It is irrefutable evidence that you were never the problem. Here's a truth many find hard to swallow. Your comeback isn't a comeback at all. It isn't a tale of recovering from failure because, at your core, you were never broken to begin with. What others categorize as your rise, your triumph, or your resilience is not something extraordinary. It's simply a return to the authentic self that existed before others sought to manipulate, control, or diminish you. Every attack, every effort to shame you, every lie spread about you was designed to make the world believe you were flawed, unstable, or incapable. They sought a victim, someone they could mold into their distorted reality, but you were never their problem. Their inability to recognize that created chaos for them and entertainment for all who were watching. Your growth reveals the truth behind their projections. Every flaw, every accusation, every criticism aimed at you was never truly about you. It was about them, their jealousy, fear, insecurity, and urgent need to maintain control. They blamed you for what they refused to confront in themselves. They criticized in you the very traits they despised in themselves. Now, as you embrace your truth, it becomes unmistakable that the issue never resided in your character. It dwelled in theirs. The shock that people experience isn't because you accomplished something extraordinary. It's that you reminded the world you were never the person they claimed you to be. You didn't require a flashy comeback or a grand transformation. You simply returned to being yourself, untouched by the chaos they attempted to conjure. And in that return, you rewrote the narrative. What's even more satisfying is that this journey back to authenticity sheds light on their irrelevance. All the energy they expended trying to control you, belittle you, and construct your story has ultimately backfired. It has only made your truth more vivid, your strength more apparent, and their failures impossible to dismiss. Your so-called comeback isn't about impressing anyone. It's an undeniable testament that the only mistake anyone ever made was in blaming you in the first place. Your story exposes the hidden economy of human betrayal. What you endured wasn't solely personal. It was a lesson in how transactional relationships can become when envy, greed, or insecurity take reign. People treated you as if you were a commodity, a resource to be used, turned over, or traded based on their needs. Each whispered conversation, every calculated decision made in your absence, every subtle manipulation wasn't mere gossip. It was a part of an unspoken economy where your worth was debated and processed as if you were an asset. They weren't contemplating your feelings, your humanity, or your growth. They were consumed with what your presence meant to them, what they could gain, how they could elevate their own fragile standing in the world. The most chilling aspect of it all is how normal this behavior appears to them. They don't view it as betrayal. They see it as business. They measure their success by their ability to control, manipulate, and strategize around others, and your life became merely a line item in their ledger. Envy dilutes the conscience, and they fail to grasp the extent of the damage they're inflicting because they're too caught up in profiting from you. The link is in the first pinned comment, and I am warning you once again. Download it now. Right? I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. Every act of secrecy, every piece of misinformation, every attempt to isolate or undermine you is a transaction masked as an action, and the irony is none of it increased their value. It only exposed it. Your journey flips the narrative entirely. What they wielded as currency against you becomes evidence of their own transgressions. Their plotting, calculations, and feeble attempts to commodify your existence are now laid bare for all to see. And because you survived, thrived, and upheld your integrity, their entire system of manipulation crumbles. The lesson your story teaches is profound. Human betrayal operates like a concealed economy, with individuals placing invisible price tags on your time, energy, reputation, and even your spirit. The deeper truth is that their misguided attempts to diminish you merely laid bare the poverty of their character. Your journey reveals the mechanisms of their deceit, the depths of their envy, and the fragility of those who can't perceive you as human before they see you as competition. They didn't ruin your reputation. They dismantled their own ability to lie about you. What they aimed to destroy was never your name, but your silence. They relied on the assumption that you would remain quiet, confused, or too overwhelmed to rise above the noise they created. Their entire strategy hinged on the idea that you had no voice, no evidence, no clarity, and no power to break free from the chaos they manufactured. Here's the twist they never anticipated. The more recklessly they attempted to damage your name, the clearer their true motives became. Their behavior, excessive and dramatic, was so disproportionate to reality that it became the mirror reflecting their own desperation. People don't need to hear your side to discern the truth. Your adversaries made their panic loud enough for everyone to witness. Their lies lost credibility the moment they chose to treat the destruction of you as a full-time job. That isn't normal behavior. It signifies a state of panic. The truth didn't require safeguarding. It merely needed time. And when the truth finally arrives, it does so with the weight of every irrational decision they made while trying to rewrite your story. Their actions will serve as the evidence that clears your name, because anyone who possesses discernment can see that the level of effort they invested into tarnishing your reputation was never about you being a threat to their integrity. It was never about you being a threat. It was about them grappling with their own illusions. They weren't unfurling your flaws. They were laying bare their very fears. They weren't just pointing out your mistakes. They were illuminating their own insecurities. Their attempts weren't aimed at dismantling your credibility. They were merely tearing down their own facades. People inevitably begin to ponder a simple yet profound question. Why expend such effort to undermine a single individual? This inquiry marks the start of their demise. You don't need to fight to protect your reputation. You don't owe anyone an explanation or an apology. The truth works tirelessly on your behalf, leveraging the very hands that sought to bury it. Their actions inevitably unravel their own narrative, while your story stands resilient, even without your intervention. They didn't tarnish your reputation. They shattered the illusion that they held any power to define you. Your survival is a stark revelation of just how spiritually diseased some individuals can be. What seems unbelievable about your journey isn't merely the suffering you endured. It's the chilling fact that such cruelty existed in the first place. Your survival serves as a mirror, and when onlookers gaze into it, they see not just your strength, but the moral decay hidden within those who targeted you. You didn't merely conquer adversity. You exposed the rotting hearts of those who had succumbed long before you ever entered their lives. Many perceive spiritual disease as something grandiose, almost fantastical, but the reality is more insidious. It manifests as everyday people opting for cruelty over compassion, latching onto it because it falsely empowers them. It appears as smiling faces in public, masking the inner turmoil that envy has precipitated. It resembles adults so starved spiritually that inflicting pain on the innocent feels like sustenance to them. Your story didn't unveil their actions. It unveiled their true nature. Your endurance magnified their spiritual emptiness, their bitterness, and their moral bankruptcy. When people hear what you've survived, they are taken aback not just by your resilience, but by the extremes to which others went to undo someone who stood as a reflection of their own deficiencies. Your survival compels individuals to confront an unsettling reality. Not everyone is simply hurting. Some are corrupted. Not everyone is lost. Some revel in their capacity to hurt. Not all have made misguided choices. Many have forfeited their humanity entirely. Your existence, your unwavering fortitude, your determination to thrive, shines an unforgiving light on that deep-seated sickness. Those who sought to harm you didn't merely falter. They showcase the signs of a spiritual affliction. Jealousy morphs into sabotage, insecurities balloon into obsessions, and an emptiness festers into cruel behavior. The most disquieting realization is that they believe their actions were utterly routine. The reason your tale resonates so intensely with others is that it dismantles the illusion that humanity is always benevolent, logical, or just. You survived what countless would deem impossible, and in doing so, you've become undeniable proof of two realities: the depths to which the human heart can sink, and the extraordinary strength of the human spirit when it refuses to succumb in the face of spiritual blindness. Your very being became the test they never acknowledged. There are pivotal moments in life when people are unknowingly evaluated, not by societal standards, religious doctrines, or conventional rules, but by the simple existence of someone who lays bare everything they profess to be. The link is pinned at the top of the comments. Do not postpone until tomorrow what you must do today. Download it now. Right? I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. You became that mirror. Without any intent, you extracted their true characters merely by being yourself. You sought neither loyalty nor compassion, yet they betrayed and withheld both. You never shoved them into darkness. They willingly walked into it, oblivious. The stark truth is this: you epitomized the opportunity they never recognized, a chance to affirm their true selves when no one was observing. You created the moment that divided who they thought they were from who they truly are. People love to claim that they possess kind hearts, maturity, and loyalty. But when faced with someone who genuinely required those attributes, they fell short, offering only excuses instead. Your presence laid bare the chasm between their self-image and their authentic character. You weren't their undoing. Rather, you were the reflection they failed to confront with sincerity. Their actions weren't merely driven by envy or insecurity. They illuminated a profound lack of discipline, emotional maturity, and self-restraint. Their responses demonstrated how swiftly their integrity crumbles when challenged by someone who quietly excels, grows, and refuses to diminish. What stings them the most now is the painful knowledge that they had every chance to treat you with decency, and yet they opted for the opposite. They weren't wrestling with external pressures. They contended with you, a person who demanded nothing more than basic human kindness, yet they still fell short. People often falter in life not due to the challenges presented, but because the truths at stake threaten identities they cling to desperately. Your very existence embodied that truth. Their mistreatment of you was not a fleeting moment of weakness. It was definitive proof of the characters they maintained all along. Your story ultimately reveals far more about them than it does about you. You didn't falter. They did, spectacularly, publicly, and irrevocably. You didn't become famous through your story. Instead, you gained recognition for enduring what should have shattered you. Your story is not merely a headline for tragedy. It's a profound testament to endurance. People do not respect you solely because misfortune has crossed your path. They honor you because you've chosen not to be defined by those adversities. Every hardship you've faced, every betrayal, every deliberate attempt to break you could have left you shattered, questioning your worth, or lost within the chaos. Yet, here you stand, not just surviving, but rising taller, stronger, and with a clarity that shines bright. What others perceived as victimhood has become evidence that resilience is not just a concept, it's a reality you embody. The fascination others have with your journey isn't rooted in the darkness you endured. It lies in how beautifully you've navigated through it. Those who sought to silence your voice, undermine your spirit, or strip you of your identity now bear witness to the undeniable truth. Their efforts to diminish you have fallen flat. They thought they could break you, but true survival isn't measured by the silence of your suffering. It's measured by the boldness with which you rise in spite of it. You have shattered the illusions of those who thought they could keep you down. What renders your story extraordinary is not the pain inflicted upon you, but the magnificent transformation that followed. You refused to wallow in bitterness or let anger dictate your course. Instead, you harnessed your experiences, turning them into beacons of clarity and lessons of wisdom, proving your unwavering strength. You stand as a living example that life's harshest trials can become the very forge that shapes a chosen one. Your narrative is both shocking and enlightening. It unveils the stark contrast between human depravity and the power of resilience. In moments when others resorted to their lowest instinct, plotting and betraying, you soared to heights they could never fathom. Fame, respect, and acknowledgement are not merely granted to those who suffer. They are earned through the valor it takes to survive what should have crushed you. You did not gain notoriety from your tragedies. And remember, the digital book, The Chosen One's Handbook, 21-Day Activation Guide, is waiting for you up there at the top of the comments, ready to guide you into the new life that is beginning right now. Right? I am chosen, and I will download the digital book. Instead, you garnered respect for illuminating to the world that no cruelty, no betrayal, and no darkness can extinguish the light of someone destined to withstand, evolve, and rise. Your tale transcends personal experience. It is a revelation. Each act of betrayal, every attempt to control your narrative, every cruel strike against you was never merely an assault on your life. They were mirrors reflecting the darkness, vulnerability, and insecurities of others. Those who sought to break you were not unveiling your flaws, but revealing their own. This harsh reality, though difficult to accept, is what makes your journey so remarkable. You didn't just survive the onslaught. You transformed it into a testament of strength, clarity, and unwavering authenticity. Your life serves as a profound study of human nature, showcasing not just the depravity that emerges when envy and fear run rampant, but also the unmatched power of a spirit that refuses to be diminished. Every conspiracy against you, every fabrication, every assault on your very existence, every manipulation has spectacularly backfired. The very things intended to shame you have emerged as the cornerstones of your legacy. You didn't merely endure. You let them document their own downfall while you blossomed quietly. They panicked as your healing dismantled their emotional grip, revealing their failures in loyalty, integrity, and compassion. Their actions have made the truth impossible to deny. While they were consumed with demeaning you, you ascended to an echelon they could never attain, proving that authenticity, resilience, and strength are not just names. They are irreplaceable truths that cannot be forged or destroyed. Your journey stands as a warning, a revelation, and a triumph rolled into one. It enlightens the world on how darkness operates when left unchecked, how human envy and insecurity manifest, and fundamentally, how an indomitable spirit can rise above it all. The chronicle of what has transpired in your life is not merely about survival. It's about thriving against the odds, turning tragedy into wisdom, cruelty into clarity, and assaults into testaments of your unique power. This message resonates for a reason. If it touches your heart and inspires your spirit, don't let it remain unspoken.